Hello everybody and welcome to the MLM Leadership Show. I know we're a little bit late today. We're getting back from our trip from Destin, Florida. And before we get started on the next chapter, we're going to go ahead and invite some people onto here. We got in super late last night, but we're still going to get this done. Florida was amazing, by the way. Like, it was so nice. It was in the high 80s all week, which was perfect. It was still warm, but like not so much where I felt like I was dying if I went outside. Got to go to Crab Island, which was really, really cool. I'm sure a lot of you were seeing the pictures being posted. I still haven't posted all the pictures yet. I was actually trying not to be on my phone as much while we're on vacation, but it was a very good time. Excuse me. Lo and behold, we are back, and now my allergies are back as well. Whoops. Alrighty. So today we are on chapter 10, which is compounding leaders. So Jeff, I'm going to have you go over this today.
And this is a wrap. This is the last chapter. So this has been an amazing book. It would be one that I would actually want to go over again. You know, one of the ones that you can pull out. So there's a few books that you could kind of pull out once a year that would just be amazing. And I think this is one of them. So compounding leaders, it says, receive the highest return in developing leaders. It says many years ago, I was early in my career, I decided to take on some business courses in order to become a better leader in the area of finance. In one of my classes, economics professor taught something that changed my life, the Pareto principle. So the Pareto principle basically is 80-20. 80% of the people are going to do nothing, and 20% are going to basically bring in 80% of the volume of an organization. It's just the way that it works in any organization. 80% of the work that needs done gets done in 20% of the time. It's kind of that kind of principle. And you can apply this Pareto principle, the 80-20, almost to anything that you're going out and doing, just like working out. 80% of the activity in working out gets you nowhere. 20% is the ones that are really going to make it happen. Chinton's here. What's up, sir? So 20% of the workers produce 80% of the product. 20% of the sales force close 80% of the sales. 20% of the products return to 80% of the revenue. 20% of the population processes 80% of the wealth. And 20% of the teams in a league will win 80%. So, I mean, you see the certain teams win over and over and over again. That's what we're talking about. You get the idea. Actual statistics vary, but they're usually close to this 20-80 or 80-20 rule. And basically what John talks about is, you know, the number of priorities basically are also going to equate to your production level. So significant at first. So accumulate advantages. What begins as small advantages gets bigger over time. So the compounding effect of the Pareto principle, it says small advantages in the beginning become big advantages in the end. You have to be strategic. So what does that mean? Gifting. It says high gifting or talent can certainly set people apart from others early on and give them a head start. So, you know, you're going to walk in and certain people are going to have the gift to make this happen. They're going to have the personality. They're going to have the training from somewhere else, and they're going to be able to make things happen. Now, look at this from the idea of recruiting. If somebody has a career inside of being self-employed and they've hired hundreds of people and fired people before, they're going to have a unique advantage in recruiting. It's going to be easier for them. The average person, again, 80-20, 80% of people never hire anybody. 80% of people never manage anybody. Now, you might have, quote unquote, a manager's title, but, you know, if you're the night manager at a gas station and there's no employees, who are you managing? The Frito-Lay? You know, the Coca-Cola? Hey, stay on your shelf, get in line. There's nobody to manage. It's a title only. And I deal with a lot of people like, oh, I've had this title before. Well, the title does not give you the experience in working with people. So they're talking about gifts that people have. Naturally, some people have just been around more people growing up. And, you know, sometimes gifts are developed before they get to, you know, this profession, the profession of recruiting and team building. So timing is next. And timing is really everything in business. Timing is everything in recruiting. If somebody just got a job, that's the hardest time to recruit them. If somebody just lost a job, it's the hardest time to recruit them. Those are the two most difficult times to recruit somebody. When somebody's moving, I mean, it's almost like the list of depression. So if you don't know this, there's like a top 10 list for depression. The top 10 list for depression and the top 10 list for hard to recruit are almost identical. Somebody who just lost a job, somebody who just got divorced or just found out they're getting divorced, somebody whose relationship is falling apart, somebody who's just had somebody pass away. Those are times where people mentally aren't really all there to be able to participate in something else. It's very difficult to recruit them. Here's the problem. Most of the time, you're not asking enough questions to find out where people are at. That's why people give you these weird excuses and you don't get it. You're like, oh my gosh, is it me? My product's wrong. My business is wrong. I don't know how to do this. People don't like my video, etc., etc. Really has nothing to do with that. It has to do with you don't understand where that person's at. It's timing. Relationships. So much of successful leadership is based on who you know and who knows you. So a referral from, you know, the ditch digger is different than a referral from the guy who runs or the girl who runs the Chamber of Commerce. You know, if the person running the Chamber of Commerce has a great reputation and she refers you to 10 business owners, you can just walk in the door and close people versus not knowing anybody and trying to get a referral from people you don't necessarily know. It's much more difficult. So those that have the relationship ahead of time. Intentionality. It says very few people take leadership of their own lives. Most people passively accept what comes. When you become absolutely ridiculously laser focused on something you want and you know exactly what you want and you know exactly what it takes to get it and you put all your effort into it, it's amazing what you can produce. And you're intentional about every single step of that plan. I was listening to a guy last night. He's like, look, I spent 10 years. I know. You know, he spent 5 years building the largest energy company in the world as everybody else's company was going down. They were growing at 60,000% a year. 60,000%. I mean, the numbers were astronomical. For 5 years in a row, won every award, and was able to build. He's built several companies like this. And he's like, guys, it took intentionality. Every single day, every single second, you know, I was making decisions. I was making these decisions every single day, every single second. And it compounded because I was doing it every day. Intentional living turns good intentions into actions. So John wrote a book called Intentional Living. And what it says is, you know, are you working towards an ultimate goal, ultimate plan? Are you in alignment would be another way. Does your activities line up with your values, line up with your morals, line up with your goals, line up with your social activity, line up with your schedule? And if your schedule is all over the place and it's not focused, then you're probably not going to get what you want. Okay, 2, it takes time for little things to add up to big things. So this is where being consistent. And here's what I can tell you in direct sales and network marketing. The first 90 days you get serious about this, you know what's going to happen? Almost nothing. Almost nothing. The first 90 days. The first 90 days you actually get serious about your business. Not writing down, I'm going to be serious for the next 90 days, because we've all done that, right? If you've been in for more than like 3 months, at one point you're like, I'm going to get serious right now. And then you're not serious the next day. If you wake up in the morning and you're turning on the television first thing, or you're scrolling through Facebook and you're making comments, or you're watching a show, or you're playing a video game, you're not serious. That's as simple as that's as simple as it is. When you're dead serious, the very first thing you're looking at and doing is probably personal development, and you're getting out, who you're talking to, how you're talking to, and I don't care if you have a job or not. The people that I know who are serious, who have really done this and made money, and what I mean by make money is not make $200 or $300. I'm talking about the people who get into the thousands of dollars, like the multiple comma checks. So it takes time to build consistency, and you've got to do it day after day after day. And that's true really for anything, right? I mean, if you want to lose weight, you have to consistently track what you're doing day after day. You have to eat less. If you want to work out, if you want to get strong, you have to do it day after day after day. It says right choices plus consistency and time equals significant returns. And John just talked about this. He goes, in 1973, I believe everything rises and falls on leadership. From that time forward, I've invested daily in personal growth. He goes, in 1976, I called to give my life to basically train leaders. He decided at that point that's what he was going to do. Within weeks, I was training leaders, and I have not stopped for more than 40 years. In 1979, I started writing books to help grow leaders. Ever since then, he's never stopped writing books. I mean, he's written over 100. In 1984, I decided to develop resources to mentor leaders. So he created CDs, podcasts. His very first thing he created was a tape set. I actually have a bunch of them called the Enjoy Club, I believe is what it was called. But I've got a bunch of the original cassette tapes that he mailed out. They're very cool. I actually am going to transfer all that to digital so that way I can listen to more of them. In 1986, I started my first company focused on leadership. He's since founded 3 additional companies and 2 non-for-profits, all focused on developing leaders. In 1994, I began asking leaders to rise up. And I don't know what year he founded the John Maxwell team. It was in the last 7-8 years he founded the John Maxwell team, which is now he's training coaches to train leaders, which is kind of cool. So the right choices plus consistency over time equals significant returns. 3, a few leaders will give the greatest return than many followers. A few leaders will give a greater return than all the followers in the world, really. So be intentional. You're constantly looking for better and better people. So the guy that I was listening to last night, Dan Pena, who, has arguably probably mentored more people to more money. He's somewhere in the neighborhood of $700 billion is what he's helped create for his students in total, income revenue coming in. I don't know anybody that's even come close to his numbers. He personally took $800 and turned it into $450 million over an 8-year period of time. He took an option public. He's done some weird stuff. Interesting guy. Not necessarily everybody's going to want to go learn from him. But he talked about when he first got out of the military, one of the first things he did was he went into real estate sales. And when he was in real estate sales, they had about 275 people in this one office. And he basically, as manager, got rid of all of them, and he hired 17 people. They were the top guys coming out of the military. They were like Air Force recruiters and pilots and just people who really, really had it together. Those 17 people outproduced the 270, whatever, how many people there were. There were over 270 people. Outproduced all 270 of them over the next 12 months. Over the next 12 months, those guys completely wiped them out. He said the reason being is when you focus on top performers, when you focus on high achievers, when you focus on leaders rather than followers, your production level goes 80-20. 80% more gets done, 20% of the time usually. How to develop leaders, compound your return on your investment. Number 1, develop leaders, help you carry the leadership load. So this was explained to me as lower level leadership. I'm going to teach you what to do to get to the first level. I'm going to teach you what to do to get to the second level and the third level and the fourth level. But once you get to 4 or 5, what I always say is once you get to the top of the chart, now you're going to start teaching people how to develop at the same time. Lower level leadership. It doesn't take the top person to come down and teach it every time. I want you to know how to do it, how to get people started, how to get people rolling, how to present what we're doing. So it says, we started recruiting leaders and developing them. It took us 19 years, but we've trained leaders from every country around the world. Here's how. We recruited 400 volunteers and developed them to train potential leaders. Those leaders have traveled to countries twice a year for 3 years to basically train other potential leaders. Those leaders have made 4,500 trips, totaling 49 million miles. Those leaders have helped, and equipped, and raised $56 million to fund leadership training materials. Those leaders have taught a total of 162,000 leadership lessons. Those leaders who trained, leaders required them to train more leaders. More than 5 million leaders have been trained so far. So the way it was explained to me is basically you're going out and training 10 and challenging each one of your 10 to train 10. So that way, a couple levels down, you're at 10,000, a couple levels down, you're at 100,000, a couple levels down, you're at 1 million, and that's how you got to 5 million people. None of that wouldn't happen without those initial leaders. So when he founded Equip, I had a big vision. A few leaders could carry it out. If the vision is right, the right leaders show up. You just have to get it in front of enough people. It's just like any plan. You have to get in front of enough people to find the ones that it's right for. 2, develop leaders, multiply your resources. You're going to multiply your time. You're going to multiply your thinking. You're going to multiply your production. You're able to get more done. You're going to multiply the people around you and your loyalty. What I found is the more people working on a single project, usually the more loyalty you get. It's very hard to get loyalty with 1 or 2 people. Because 1 or 2 people, it's almost like social proof. There's not enough proof. There's not enough influence with 1 or 2 people. But when you have a room full of people, all of a sudden everybody listens. It's really, really weird. 3, developed leaders help you create momentum. When you get a bunch of people running in the same direction, it's amazing how many people you can attract. And it takes time to get that done. First of all, you have to get on track and run fast enough to attract some followers. So everybody's like, yeah, but you can't start out by just attracting leaders. You have to become that leader. How do you become a leader? Well, at first, leaders attract who? It's like, it starts from the bottom. First, leaders attract, not other leaders. They attract followers. When you have enough followers, other leaders take notice. That's how you get leaders. John did not start out just by finding leaders. He found a bunch of followers to start out with. And when he had enough followers, other leaders showed up and were like, how did you do this? That's usually how it works in direct sales and network marketing too. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, I've got 10 people on my team and they're not doing anything. Great. The guy that has 1 million people on his team that aren't doing anything, that's the millionaire. He only has a handful of guys. I guarantee you, if somebody's at $1 million, he probably has less than 100 people who really totally know what's going on and could take over and run with it. Usually. It's like 100 people out of 1 million people. Most of which are going to be followers. So it's very easy to move. If you want to move from a follower to a leader, it's very easy to do it. All you have to do is get on track and start doing more than just following. You've got to study. You've got to read. You've got to, get on pace with what are leaders doing? Are you doing that? What are followers doing? Are you doing that? It's a pretty easy list to look at. So, developed leaders can help you create momentum. The more people, momentum is like the hardest thing to get. It's the easiest thing to lose. It's the hardest thing to get. And you have 3 choices. You can either sustain momentum, you can increase momentum, or you can destroy momentum. Roger, what's going on, sir? Hola, ¿cómo estás? So, number 4, develop leaders, expand your influence. When you have other leaders and you've trained somebody else and they find out they're part of your team, they can come back to you. They'll come back to you and be like, hey, this is amazing. How did you do this? 5, develop leaders, keep you on your toes. Meaning, I started developing somebody at one point and they started passing me. And I was like, okay, the speed of the leader develops the speed of the pack, but if you can develop somebody that passes you, then what you have to do is figure out, okay, how do I get in front to be able to basically remain the leader, right? Because here's the thing, leadership is not given, it's taken. That was a very interesting concept for me to figure out, because I was waiting for somebody to knight or appoint or send me a letter or send me a note. And they're like, no, leadership is taken, it's not given. We were talking about this in a marketplace. We have friends that moved into a marketplace and they started working, and the marketplace leader actually tried to talk them out of running a meeting. They're like, no, don't do it. Don't have that. Don't train people. It's not going to work. We don't need to do that. They were trying to talk them out of it. But leadership is taken, not given. They decided to do it anyway, and the other leader kind of threw up their hands and were like, well, we're just not going to have anything to do with it. You guys do everything. And they did it, and they basically took the leadership of the market because they were willing to do what it takes. The other person was not willing to do what it takes. And sometimes people aren't willing to do what it takes because they don't know what it takes, and they've tried it and it's failed and it hasn't worked out. So they're like, it can't be done here. I love that. Can't be done here. Nobody can recruit people here. Nobody can build a business here. I got told that so many times in so many markets. And then we came in and we built a market and we found the right people. And I was like, it's possible everywhere. The people are there everywhere. The people who have the dreams, the people who have the backgrounds, they're there. You're probably just not willing to do what it takes, or you're not willing to change. Mm-hmm. So, develop leaders, keep you on your toes, always moving forward. Today's peacocks are tomorrow's feather dusters. He just says, get out of the way or get moving. Develop leaders, ensure better future for your organization. Obviously, your organization is going to grow in direct proportion to the people you're bringing on board. Unfortunately. So you got to bring on a whole lot of followers to get a couple leaders, a couple people who are going to work. Like, the ratio is insane. I mean, the ratio is really, think about how many people it takes to get to the top of your commission chart, or at least, a good sized bonus level. We used to say, it's 1 out of 75, because about every 75 people, we have one person that pops off at the top of the chart. So it's 1 out of 75. You got to bring on 75 people. You might not personally have to bring on, but 75 people have to be brought onto the organization to find one. I say it's 1 out of 100 usually, and then 1 out of 1,000 learns how to create those other 10 that have 100. It's just the way the numbers work. Develop leaders, multiply whenever an investment you make in them. So you're only going to be able to grow what you give into people. If you're giving nothing, you're probably going to get nothing back. So you're going to have to spend some time. You're going to have to spend some money. That's the other thing people don't get. People are like, I want leadership, but they're going to have to do it themselves. I'm not spending anything. I'm like, great way to look at it. A great ROI, return on investment. When you go out and do the work, I was told it's work, get paid. Then it's work, get paid. You're going to put in like 95% more in the beginning to get out the 2% you want in the end. And it only takes, I was taught this a long time ago, especially in direct sales and network marketing. You're going to put in all the time, all the years for a long time. 95% of what you do will absolutely equal nothing. Meaning it'll seem like it's failing, it'll seem like it's falling apart, but that 5% that takes off is the part that creates all the wealth, all the lifestyles, everything. It's that 5%. If you look at that as just sheer numbers, 95% of the people you bring on will not lead you to any passive residual lifestyle money, but 5% will. You're looking for 5 people out of 100. And the numbers never fail. 2 of those people will end up leaving within 12 months. 2 of those people will be on for a little while, and 1 out of 100 will stay around for a while, a couple years. And every year, if you're finding one more like that, you're going to start gathering, and eventually you'll get somebody who can take over. And once you have a couple people who can take over, and the leadership's right, and the training's right, it's amazing. I mean, you can explode a business. I've watched people put 60,000 people in a business in 3 years. 60,000 people. I was talking to one of my mentors, one of my friends. I was like, when you really got it down, you really had it right, how many people were you able to really bring on? He's like, 2,000. I was like, 2,000 a month. He's like, no, 2,000 a week. Somewhere just under 10,000 a month was coming into his business. This is one person's organization. This wasn't the company. This was just one person's organization. He goes, when we finally got it down, we got it right, and we started cranking. He goes, but we started attracting better and better and better people because we didn't attract those people in the very beginning. He goes, but once we figured it out, once we got it down, once we, got started the right way, that's what we were able to do. So, great book, Leader's Greatest Return, probably one of his top 5. Highly recommend getting it and reading it yourself. I would like to personally go over it again. Tomorrow, we're actually going to start a new book, right?
Yeah, we're going to start a new book because that was the last one.
So tomorrow is going to be Thinking for a Change, I believe, is the next book on the list. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I think that's the next book.
I think it is Thinking for a Change.
Got that one downstairs, rocking and ready to go. I kind of made a list of all of them, and then we'll come out with another list now that we're on one of the last books that we said we were going to, when we restarted the show. We'll pull out a whole new list of books for the next, September, August. So we'll end that in August, September, November. So we got 4 months left, so we'll bring out the next 4 books to finish out the year. I can't believe it. 2020 is almost over.
Yeah. Doesn't even seem right.
Now, half of it got stolen from us already, so we got to,
And actually, if you guys have any books that you would like to recommend, this is a leadership show, so if there's any books that you would like us to go over, we would like you to type those into the comments, because we have a lot of them, but sometimes we forget that we have some. So if there's a book that you would like us to go over, put them in the comments, and we'll talk about doing them on the show. What else? Oh, also, if you'd like to be able to view all these and get the notes from each of the chapters of these books, go join the group of MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show. And you could join that group or go follow us on YouTube, and we're going to download each one of these videos there. So with that, that's what we have for you guys today, and we will see you tomorrow.